Hey, it's Walt from Big Guys Can. Today I'm going to show you how I make big guy rated daisy chains for my climbing sticks. Let's get started. Before we get too far into this, I just want to say that I am not a trained professional. I do this for fun. I build stuff for myself. I don't build stuff for anybody else. I haven't tested anything on a braking machine, so all the statistics I'm saying are what I've read off other websites and what I've heard on other YouTube channels. So they could be wrong, but I take full responsibility for my own safety, and you should do the same. So I'm going to start here with 15 feet of Amsteel blue 1/8 inch synthetic rope. This is a 12 braid synthetic rope. It's also like the Chinese finger trap style. So when it tightens up, it constricts around itself, and it gets tighter as it goes. This has a 2,500 pound braking strength. So for climbing industry and for rating for working load, you do a safety factor of 5-to-1. So a 5-to-1 ratio on 2,500 pounds will give you a 500 pound working load. So it gives you more than enough strength that you're ever gonna need to attach a climbing stick to a tree. So I'm gonna start by making a Brembo locked eyelet at the end here. So basically on the end, I'm gonna take just about 1.5 to 2 inches to make a loop, and I'm gonna make a Brembo lock. With this stuff, as it being a constrictor rope, it gets tighter as you pull it. You don't put a conventional knot in it. Conventional knots will put different pressures on the outside of the rope and make it weaker. So what you want to do is use full berries and tapers. So you're going to put this rope through itself to give it strength, and you're going to use Brembo locks to make your eyelets, and that gives you the full strength of this rope. So you're not putting any kind of conventional, because if I put a conventional knot here, say I would just put a knot in here, it would work, but there's different tensions on different sides of the rope, and it's gonna have a point where it's pinching more on one part of the rope than the other side. So it's going to give you a point that's not as safe as the rest of the rope. So if you do it this way, Brembo locks will give you 90% of the braking strength. So we have this here. You're gonna make a 1.5 to 2 inch loop. So what I do is I have these tools that I use. Now this is a knitting needle. Now this knitting needle is solid. I'm not even sure what size it is, like a 4 or 5. And this on the back is actually a piece of automotive wire loom. And this wire loom is what I use to pull it through. I won't use it for doing this one, but I'm just going to use it to start my hole. So I'm going to put this rope here through this rope first. So I'm going to start with where my eyelet should be, and I'm going to separate this rope out. So you can see if you push it together, the strands separate, and this is hollow in the middle. So what you want to do is you want to find the center of your rope. So you want 6 strands on each side, and you want to make sure you don't catch any of the fibers, and you're going to just push through there. When you push through there, it's going to make a little hole. And so you can take this through here, and how I have it set up, I just have it so I can push that through. So now I'm onto my wire loom, and I'm going to feed this piece of the end of my Dyneema through that, and I'm going to put it in here. So this is basically the same kind of thing of a Chinese finger trap feeling, and when I pull it through, it tightens down on itself and it slides through really nice. Now you don't have to do that for making Brembo locks, because it's kind of overkill. You can just basically make a hole and slide it through. It's easier, but I just wanted to show you can do it with the wire loom. I'm going to use the wire loom to do the full berry. So now I have one end of my Brembo lock made. So you see how it makes a loop in there, but I want to lock this out so it's real tight and it's not going to move. So to make that the Brembo lock complete, so I put this rope through this rope. Now I have to put this rope back through this rope to make a lock. So there I have my 2 inch loop. So I want to grab the other rope that I put through the first rope, and I'm going to push it out, and I'm going to do the same thing with this one. So you just want to kind of keep in mind where your rope's coming through at, to kind of make it on the same plane of the rope so it's not twisting all around. It gives you a cleaner finish in the end. So I get it through here. Now, like I said, I'm going to put this side back through here. This is going to complete my Bremel lock. So you don't need to do this because it'll just slide through itself. But once you start getting into doing berries and tapers and stuff, this rope starts to fray and it gets to be kind of a little more difficult to work with, just because it's awkward more than anything. So now I have this figure 8 style loop here, and when I pull this tight, it's going to lock down on itself. Now right now I could just start and go down the rope here and start doing my daisy chain. But when you put a Bremel lock in and you don't have a berry behind it, it gives you it takes away from your braking strength. This alone right here, with putting this in here, will give you 50% braking strength, just because the rope can slip. So I want to do a full berry. And how you figure out your length of your berries is you take your diameter of your rope and you times it by 72. So an 1/8 inch times 72 is right around 9 inches. So I want to do a 9-inch berry at least, but I'm going to do more than that because I'm not going to do so this is a 9-inch berry here. I'm not going to go around a tree this small. So I'm going to take it down about, I don't know, 24 inches. So that's the smallest tree that I would ever climb. And if it's that small, I could just wrap it around twice and use my daisy hook, daisy loops at the bottom. So I want to make this as manageable as possible and as safe as possible. So I'm going to do a full berry of at least 20 inches, 24 inches, just to give me a solid piece of rope from here to here. So how I start with that is I take this tool here. This tool it's a turnover loop. So when you're making stuff like little, like a strap for an apron, so how you would do that, you would fold your material over and you would sew it up, and then you have an inside out tube. So you stick this up there and you pull it back through and it turns it right side out. So this is a sewing tool, but it makes it really nice when you're working with Dyneema, because you can just get this up through there and pull your rope down through, and you'll see that here in a second. But I don't really do that either, because when you're pulling a rope down through, you're trying to pull this whole amount down through and it's folded over on itself. So basically I catch an end here, and a lot of people will taper this down and then just put it in here, but you're still kind of folded over on itself when you're trying to pull it back through. So you're trying to pull a bigger piece than you should through. So that's why I use this wire loom, this automotive wire loom. It's small, it's compact, and I put this through first, and then I load my line into here, then I pull my line down through here. I'll show you how that works. So I'm going to take my loop turner, and I'm going to push this Dyneema apart, and I'm going to put it inside there, and I feel for the center, and there's no tension at all. When you get inside the center of this rope, there is no tension at all. If you feel tension, you're pulling on something. Just stop what you're doing and start over again. So basically all you're doing is pushing this rope onto the loop turner. You don't want to try to push the loop turner through, because you can snag stuff, but as you push the rope up, it accordions it out and makes it easier to pull it, push it through. So once I get up to where my Bremel lock is, I don't know if you can see this, but once I get up to the top here where my Bremel lock is, it just slides right out the end. So now I want to feed this rope down through here. Now you can, like I said, you can start with this part here and pull it back down through itself, but that makes it a little more difficult because you're trying to pull too much stuff through. So what I do is I take this wire loom. Now I've kind of mishmashed a bunch of people's stuff together. I got this idea here from Dutch where he uses this to make a lot of his stuff, and he'll just pull the taper down through. But I was like, that's a good idea, but I like the wire loom as well because you're doing it inline. So when you're pulling this down through, here, it's all inline. So you're just trying to pull an inline through, not fold it over. So what I do is I take this piece of wire loom and I put it around here, and I have this tapered down, the wire loom tapered down so it's not as thick. So I'm going to put this on here like so. And it'll try to keep it all together. Once it's inside here, it won't come loose. So once you get it inside this Dyneema here, that's the little tough part of it, because you're trying to pull without it constricting. But once I'm in there, I kind of loosen this back up, and I'm just going to pull this webbing through here. So this wire loom through here. So once I have that wire loom through, I can let this tool go, and I just start working with this. This is the same style as your Dyneema rope, where it's an accordion shape. I'm going to cut this off so it's easier to see. You get little frays of everything laying around. But so this is wire loom, automotive wire loom. I bought mine on Amazon. I think it was like $15 for a 25 or $10 for a 25-foot roll. You can get them for a 100-foot roll. But what I do is I just take this rope here and I stick this wire loom over top of it. And once again, it's an accordion style. So if I push down on this, it's going to loosen up. And when I grab that rope, I let it spring back. And there's a lot of guys who use this with your knitting needles to make tools. And it just makes it, so when it tightens down on itself, it holds that rope in there. But it's all in line, so there's no big humps. So when I'm pulling my wire loom down through my Dyneema now I'm starting to go down through the rope. You can see the rope coming down through itself. And once it gets out the end here, there's no real tension on here, so I can just slide my wire loom out real nice and smooth. So a couple of things happen there. I'm not putting a lot of tension on the Dyneema, and it's not getting frayed, and it's just easier to work with, and I don't try to pull everything through. It keeps my ropes neater. So I just keep doing that. And like I said, for safety purposes, a 9-inch full bury is what they recommend. But I'm going to do it longer just to keep my rope nicer, and it's easier management of my Dyneema. So like when you come out here, you want to come out the same spot as the last place you started. So we're just going to come out here. Again, I'm going to put my wire loom around here. And they sell the wire loom in different sizes as well. So this is, I think, 1/4-inch wire loom. So it's a little bit big for the 1/8 inch, but it works. And it's so smooth. I mean, doing this way is just really smooth. And once it's out this side, like I said, I can just take that loop back off, and I'm feeding more of this rope into here. And I just continue down through here. And you'll see a bunch of different guys doing different things, but I can kind of use a combination of everything I've learned. So right now I have about a 12-inch, but it's not even 12 inches. It's probably longer because once I smooth all this out, it's going to actually make it longer. So I'm going to go out to the full 20 inches. Now that my rope's out of here, now I just come up here and I pull this rope through to where it's all buried inside here. Now if you look, there's some white marks on there. That's not fibers tearing, it's just the coating on this rope. It's not the whole way through. You'll see more if you look here, there's coating missing off parts. So that's all that is. It's not a cut or a tear. So now I have just about 20 inches of a full bury. And that's where I'll start at. And what I'll do is I'll bring the rest of this rope down through here. So now you see where it's in here and it starts burying. So I'm going to start pulling this extra line down through. Once I pull it, now you see that's all attached up there. Now it's going to be a solid line coming down. So I want to start working this line down and tightening that rope back up. And as what I'm doing is this is all sliding down the rope, and it's pulling in this other line. So now this would be the same thing you would do to make a full bury rope. I would just go the whole way down. So if you want to make just a rope mod, that's all you would do is just do a full bury on the whole rope, and you would have, you know, 7-8 feet of just a full bury rope, and that's a good way to make a rope mod too. But if you want the daisy chain, this is how I start. So now I have an 1/8 inch or a 2-inch Dremel locked splice at the end here, and then let's see, about 18, 21-inch full bury. So 9 inches is the safety bury. 21 inches is just for, because I'm not going to go up a tree that small. I'm not going to go up a tree that small, so it makes it nicer just to have one rope to work with instead of two. But how I finish this off now, I'm just going to put a Dremel lock in the end here to start my daisy chains. So I'm going to grab this knitting needle. It's just a little bit bigger to show you that you don't need the wire loom to make your Dremels. So I just push this through here. I'm spreading it out. And your first one really doesn't matter where you put it at, because you're going to start your daisy chain. I just feed this in the back of, now these bigger knitting needles are hollow, and it makes it really nice, because then you can stick the line right into it. So now I make my first part of the Dremel lock. Now the second one is going to be where it gets a little bit, you have to pay attention to what you're doing. So what I'll do is I'll set it down onto here, and I'll kind of put it flat, because I want to start going through the same spot every time, the same like edge of the rope. It doesn't have to be exactly the same spot, but what you want to do is try to keep it from curling. If you keep going around in different locations, your chain's gonna wrap like a spiral. So I put this rope through this rope. Now I got to put this rope through that rope, and it'll give you that Dremel lock to start your daisy chain. So now I'm Dremel locked at the end of my full bury here. Now I'm going to start my daisy chain. So your daisy chain is basically, you're just going to kind of go like this. You're just going to Dremel lock to make a bunch of loops in here. And I'll make a few here so we can start, you can see what's going on. So I try to keep them uniform. Like I said, I lay it flat on the board here. I want to make sure that I'm going through the same side of the rope. So you don't want to go through the top, or you don't want to go through the bottom. You want to go parallel with a table. So I'm going to start here with a 2-inch Dremel lock. So I start here, push this through, come through the back here. Coming through this way. So now I have my 1 3/4 to 2-inch loop to start. Now you see, I wanted to lay flat. So I want to make sure that I'm going through the same part of the rope every time. So I came through this rope here. So now this rope's got to go back through that one. So I just take it and push it out. You want to find the middle. You want to make sure you're not pulling any strands out. When you go through the middle, you want six strands on each side to give the maximum strength. You don't want any weak spots. Once I fold this through here, pull it. So now that I have my first chain link. So I have a 2-inch chain link there, and I'm going to keep going down the rope until I get a bunch of them in here. So I'm going to go to my next one. I want to start on the end of this one and go to the 2 inches. Like I said, I want to keep parallel with the table as much as I can. It doesn't have to be perfect, but all that's going to do is give you a nice uniform look, and your chain's not going to do a spiral as it's turned, you know, so it's nice and flat. It doesn't make a difference on strength wise, but it just makes it look nicer. Makes it look more uniform. So once my second one's in there, I'm gonna go into here. And all you gotta do is make sure you're alternating which rope's going through which rope. Because if you put the same rope through twice, it takes all the strength out of it, and you got to pull it back out and start over again. You'll see, because it'll slip. It won't stay locked. So now that I have the whole daisy chain part done, I have the loop here, the eyelet loop, and then the full berry part. Then I have the full daisy chain done the whole way down to the end of the rope here. All I have left is about 9 inches of tag end, which I'm going to bury in itself, and then a piece on the end, which I'm going to finish it off. I'm going to show you how I do that. But this like I said, this 9 inches is a safety factor. So you have 9 inches of bury after your Bremel locks to give you that full strength of those Bremel locks. And I'm going to do it with this now. Normally, I said I would use on this small diameter rope. I use this piece here, but if you don't have that, this is just wire to hang picture frame wire. So you do the same kind of thing. So I'm going to go up through here. Actually, I'm going to go down a little further. Because this constricts too and makes it shorter. So you kind of want to start down towards the bottom, so you don't have to keep taking it back out and readjusting for the end here. But I take this wire up through, not the whole way to the end, but almost to the end. And so this is just a little bit tougher to work with, but the same kind of thing. You're going to push the Dyneema onto the wire and kind of just accordion up and let it slide down. Accordion up, let it slide down. So this will give you the finish of this thing. This will give you that 9 inches of full bury on the end to give you that safety factor. I'm just going to keep working it up until I get to where I can come out here. So I am out at the end here. Now this piece, normally what I would do is I would put the wire loom down through there. But if you don't have that, you can also taper it. So the taper part of it is where it gets fluffy and it's harder to pull down through here. So how you do that is kind of spread this out, and I'm going to take I have this little tool here. It's basically just for doing vinyl. I get these at Michael's or Walmart. It's just for picking out vinyl off stickers, but it helps me with tapering my rope. So I'm going to taper the very end here. You don't want a big hump in your end. So the last inch and a half, I'm going to taper. So what I'll do is I'll pull one strand out. As I'm pulling this strand out of here, you see white marks along your rope. That's just because the whole thing's not coated. You can see it's kind of striped. So it's not bad. There's no damage to the rope. It's just the whole thing is not coated. They coat it after not before they wrap the strands. So they coat it afterwards. So I take 2 out, then I'll do a third one. I try to take them from different spots on the rope, kind of make it evenly tapered. So when you grab 3 strands there, take 3 out. Then you try to cut them as close as you can to that dynamo. So what you want to do is take a 12-strand rope and make it down to a 4-strand or 6-strand at least. So there's not a big hump in there. It's not as much of a issue way down on the end of my rope because the tension's not going to be down there. But if you have a full berry with a taper in any part of it, and you're going to go to a single rope, you want to make sure this is really tapered good, because if not, then you will have the issue of the same as tying a knot, the pressure against part of the rope. There's a abrupt drop off. It's going to create more pressure on that line, and the breaking strength is going to go down. So I did 3, then I'm going to do a couple more, so I'm down to got 5 strands out of here. You just want to keep moving up as you go, so it tapers real gentle. And I guess in the rigging industries, in the marine industry, this is very, very important. Make sure the taper is exactly right. But for what we're doing, like I said, it's not that big of a deal. And as we go down, we just taper down as we go. These things are way overkill for what we're doing with it. So this stuff's a pain to cut, so it starts getting fuzzy. So we start getting down towards the end. This starts getting, and I usually cut the big fuzzy chunk off the end because it's a pain to work with. And this is why I don't taper from the beginning. This is why I leave it full as possible and run the wire loom, because it gets fuzzier and fuzzier and it starts fraying out more and more. But this is tapered down now, and I could probably cut a couple more out of here too. So right at the very end, I'll just cut a few more to make it smaller. I'm not as fluent with doing it this way before I pull it through, because I normally have it already through my rope when I do it. So I'm going to put this in here, and I'm going to turn it back on itself, and I'm going to start pulling this wire out of here. So you're going to pull this down through itself, and it goes down through there. It's not real hard to do. Once it's tapered, it pulls down through pretty easy. And once you're out the bottom here, like I said, your taper on this end is going to be where it kind of just goes back up into the rope. It pulls itself back up. So what I do is I start pulling this rope down. You'll see that taper pull right back up inside that rope. Now everything's buried, and it tapers down real nice and smooth. There's no big hump here. So there's no hump on the end. And now we have our 9-inch full bury. So that'll give us all the strength of our Brembo locks. And now I have this little piece on the end here, which I'm going to attach the way I attach it to my sticks is through this thing. And if you have a wife or daughter with long hair, you'll find these laying all over your house. Mine's normally laying on the bathroom sink or on the floor. This is just a hair tie. So with this hair tie, all I'm going to do is I'm going to put it over the edge here. Then I'm going to bury this back on itself, and it's just to attach my stick to my end to the stick, so just for rope management. So you don't have to really do much with it. All I'm going to do here is how I finish it. I just make like half a Brembo lock. Like I said, it's not really that important that it's perfect, because all it does, there's no weight bearing at all to it. It's just to connect my cable to my stick for carrying it out of the woods and into the woods. So it doesn't have to be it's not, no safety factors or anything on it. So I just have it out here. So I'm pulling it through like that, and I just pull it down so it tightens it down. And once I'm tight like that, all I'm going to do is bury this back into itself, and my end is made. So now that I have my daisy chain complete, I can attach it to my stick. My sticks are an XOP X2. They are big guy rated at 350 pounds. That's one of the reasons why I went with this stick. The weight capacity to the weight of the stick is a very manageable ratio. They're not as light as a carbon fiber stick, but that 350 pound weight rating from XOP puts on it is very comforting for me. The other thing about these sticks, they have a really big standoff. So the wide standoff, it's a 5.5 inch standoff of the tree, and I wear a size 14 boot. So when I put my boot on here, it's a nice platform. It's a nice platform. It gives me a lot of room for my feet up on here. I don't feel like I'm on my tiptoes trying to climb these sticks. I can get a good grip on them. Speaking of grip, these have a powder coated finish on them, and they're really, really aggressive powder coat finish. So you're not going to slip with, you know, if your feet are wet from the morning dew, you're not going to slip off of these things. It has a good bite to it. So if you're using any kind of aiders, or you know the one-step aiders or anything like that, you definitely want to put something over top of these. I use webbing strap, like hollow webbing strap that you would put around an ATV winch, to give that barrier between the Amsteel and its climbing stick, just so it gives you extra protection, because this stuff's strong. It's stronger than steel cable, but it does cut, and is not as abrasion resistant as steel cable would be. But let's attach this on to my stick. So I have my eyelet here, my Bremel locked eyelet, and I'm just going to put this around my Versa button. Now this is how you attach anything. It doesn't matter if it's the cam buckles or anything. They'll attach right here. So this basically just goes onto there like that, and then I come around the tree. You can also girth hitch this onto your stick. A girth hitch is basically just you would fold this over on itself and make a loop, and that's going to give you a super tight hold. And it tightens up as you go. So once you use it one time, it's actually hard to get the girth hitch off of here to change your cables out. So I don't really change my daisy chains out very often. I just check them every time I go hunting. And when I come home, I check over them and make sure that there's no abrasion marks on them. There's no wear marks on them. So you can really tell. You can tell once you get fray marks or anything on these. But so how this works is you would wrap this around the tree and your daisy chain part. So you can see your daisy chain here. You'd have the little loops. All your little loops here give you adjustment points to where to attach the other end of this. So basically this is how it would attach to a tree, and then you would pull down on it to tighten your stick. If you wanted to get a little tighter grip to it, you could actually go up underneath your Versa button, come over this way, and then I go down through a loop, and then I use it as like a mechanical advantage, like a pulley system, to get it really tight. And then I find one of the loops on here. I'll shoot a video on how I attach stuff to trees to make it stronger. And that way, when you tighten it down to a tree, it drops maybe like 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches down when you tighten it down. But once you put your weight on it, it doesn't move at all. So it's nice, kind of gives you a little bit more grip to the tree. So when I'm done with this, all you do is when I'm done hunting, I come down, I take my sticks off the tree, I just wrap this up. And this is the difference between this and the cam straps as well. Because I wrap this around the tree, my stick's ready to transport at this point. It's ready to go. And the extra weight on there is nothing. All 4 of my daisy chains combined are way less than one of the cam buckles. This stuff's really lightweight and strong. Like I said, this has a working load of 500 pounds. Like we said before, the working load is basically 1/5. It's a 5-to-1 ratio for a safety factor. And these are rated at 2,500 pounds and a working load of 500 pounds. So I'm very confident that these are never going to fail on me unless it gets a cut in it. But as far as just breaking the brake, they're not going to do that. So it's really good material. And I'll show you how. So I have all my, well, these are 3 of my 4 sticks here. So I have my daisy chains wrapped around all my sticks. And to carry them, all I do is there's a little holder on the sticks, and there's two ways you can do it. You can either do them both together from the side, but that gets kind of hard to bring apart. But if you look on the back side of it, there's a little groove where this button will set into the stick. So when I get all these attached here, all I'm doing is sliding it down in there. Now my sticks are all attached to each other. So this is 3 of the 4 of my sticks that I use. My 4th one is a modified 1 stick that I could take out by itself and just climb with that 1 stick if I wanted to. But normally if I take all 4 sticks out, this is how I carry them. And then these will attach to the side of me like this. So as I'm climbing up the tree, this will be attached to my side. And all I do is push down on one, slide it out, and I'm ready to go. And I put this on the tree and I work my way up. Like I say, it's a really effective, nice way, and you know when you get to the woods, all of your stuff is attached. So all of my attachment to the tree is already on my stick, so I don't have to worry about forgetting, you know, the webbing straps at my house or anything. So I'm ready to go. When I start climbing the tree, I attach this onto me, and I start going up and put on one at a time. And I'll shoot some videos on how I do that stuff and how I climb the tree and the safest way for a big guy to do it. And so just remember, safety is always important, and you're responsible for your own safety. So like and subscribe to my channel if you thought this video was informative, and we'll see you soon. Thanks.